Hi everyone, welcome to another session. Today we are going to discuss another important topic, SSL slash TLS encryption. There is a lot of confusion around this topic, and this is very important concept for the CISSP exam. When I start preparing this topic, I was very confused how this certificate request works, how client and server can initiate certificate signing request, how CA issue the certificate. So all these confusions I try to clarify in this particular session. So you can see we have two diagrams, the above diagram and the diagram in the bottom. So we in first half of session we will mainly focus on this first diagram. In this first diagram you can see that we have client, right? It could be it could be client, it could be server, it could be anything, right? So it could be server. So let's assume that this particular client needs a certificate from certificate authority. How he can submit the request for certificate? So this client, as you can see in this image or in this diagram, that client will generate pair of key, right? So here you can see client will generate a pair of key, private and public key. So once this client will submit certificate signing request to CA, so to CA, then what client needs to do, client needs to add the public key in that CSR request, and as well as needs to add organization name, domain name, email, country, etc, etc. So these details are essential. These details need to be added while submitting certificate signing request, right? So after verifying those requests by CA, then this certificate X.509 certificate will be issued to the client. So, and in that certificate, CA sign will sign provide the signature using his private key, sorry. So CA will uh, sign this certificate using its private key, right? But the certificate will not be encrypted. Only using private key, CA will sign the certificate, right? So when client has submitted the request for certificate, right? Then client has added public key, his public key, and as well as other details, right? So once that certificate will be issued by CA, so only uh, the signature will be encrypted. The certificate will be signed using private key, right? And now the certificate is issued. So now in this below diagram, you can see we have client and we have server. In this diagram, I try to explain when client initiates request to server to request any protected resources, any service or anything from server. So now imagine that they both have a certificate which are issued by CA. So once this request will be initiated, step number one, once this request will be initiated from client, then server will present his certificate to the client. And, and just keep in mind, if they need to authenticate each other, then they need to present a certificate. They both need to present certificate to each other, right? So here you can see step number two, present certificate, right? Server is presenting his certificate to client and vice versa. Step number four, client is presenting his certificate to the server, right? If mutual authentication is required. So once they present their certificate, then they can now verify those certificate using CA public key, right? So whether that certificate is signed by CA, so using CA public key, right? But only they can check whether the certificate is issued by the CA. But there are few other things which needs to be checked, right? Number one, whether this certificate is still valid, right? Still valid means it is still it's not expired yet, right? So for that, there are two ways to perform that. Number one, it can be checked offline, and another option would be it can be checked online. So first, I will tell you how it can be checked offline. Server can download CRL, right? Certificate revoca- revocation list, right? So when that uh, if server has that CRL, then it can be checked whether that particular certificate exists in this pre-downloaded list, and it happens locally. For that, server does not need any internet connection. It can be done uh, locally. Okay, so that is important thing. But there could be another way to check uh, the certificate, to verify the certificate, um, and that is online. Online means using OSCP protocol, online certificate status protocol, which checks directly with the CA in real time. And for that, you need internet connectivity. Okay, so checking offline, it would be a faster, but there could be some scenarios where you need to verify online using OSCP, online certificate status protocol. I will come to that point when that is necessary to check in that way. But now we need to keep in mind that we have two ways to check the authenticity of the certificates: offline and online, right? Once that is completed, that part, once that certificate is verified, now both server and client, they both have a legitimate certificate, right? Then they can establish communication with each other, right? Using the public key of their public key, the public key which have they have added in the CSR, certificate signing request. So using that public key, initially when client has this particular client has sent request to CA, uh, this client has included his public key in that particular request, and that particular request is in the certificate, right? That certificate is signed by CA, and there was also a public key on the certificate which was initially shared by the client, or let's say in this case we have, in this scenario we have client and server, they both have acquired the certificate from CA. So that public keys, now they will establish, uh, they will extract that public key from the certificate, and public key is used to establish secure handshake. Now here is the catch, they will only establish a secure handshake, and then a session key is generated and encrypted using asymmetric encryption. Once the session key is securely exchanged both between both source and between server and client, then this they will use uh, this session key to transfer uh, the data, right? So, and uh, then they both, we can say they both will switch to symmetric encryption. So symmetric encryption means that there will be one key which has been exchanged, right? So we all know that symmetric key is used for encryption and decryption. Only three-way handshake would be done using private and public key using asymmetric method. But once three-way handshake is completed, then they will switch to symmetric encryption. So they will use the same session key um, in order to transfer the data. So symmetric encryption is much faster for large data transmission. The same session key is used for encryption and decryption for data transfer, and that is, we all know, that will be very efficient. So uh, this is how the communication is established between client and server in this, as per this diagram. So I think we have tried to cover all those essential points, and one more point I think I have mentioned initially, in which case um, uh, server will, or host or client will use online, will check in real time whether that particular certificate is valid, legitimate. It is sometimes, if something is missing in certificate, or it could be the client has shared self-signed certificate. If there is something missing, then in that case, client will check with the CA using this OSCP protocol. And there could be also another thing where that option is used. It is when there is strict security environment, where they always use online method OSCP in order to check the legitimacy of the certificate. So I think that is very much about this topic. As I said, this is very important topic for the CISSP exam, and I try to cover all the essential points. related to this topic. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you have any question, or if you want me to uh, make another video on this topic in detail, just share your feedback, share your questions in the comment section. Then maybe I can prepare another another detailed session, because I think there could be some questions about uh, SSL certificate, whether it is free, whether we can buy it from CA. So if you want me to have another session on this topic, so I can I can make another video for this topic. But I think the points which we have discussed in this session, they are sufficient for preparing CISSP exam. And one more thing which I would like is, this video is getting a bit longer, but one thing which I would like to highlight or emphasize while preparing CISSP exam, that we need to try to understand the concept. If we understand the concept, then we can answer any type of question related to this topic. We can answer very easily. Once again, thanks for watching this video, and if any further feedback, please share in the comment section.